Chains rattle broken, now we rise. Flag in my hand starts burning the skies. Truth ain't dead, though the liars try. They scream loud, but the words all die. Guys watching hands, praise to the throne. Freedom ain't free, blood built this home. Continue freedom, keep it alive. Red, white, blue, we bleed to survive. The brave who fight and strive. Continue freedom, keep it alive. Land of the free, ain't bending the knee. Truth in my veins, it's all I see. Patriots roar, no fear in the fight. Continue freedom, stand in the light.
Okay, guys, welcome back to another episode of Continue Freedom. Thank you all so much for being here. If you're new to the channel, please feel free to hit all the free buttons below. That really helps the channel, helps us in the algorithm. Good stuff going on. So this is look, this is all over X. They're talking about the release of the Epstein files and all the text messages and emails back and forth between Steve Bannon and other people. And we're going to get into that. We're going to get into how you're probably questioning why I have Candace Owens and Steve Bannon both on the thumbnail for this video. And the reason is, though they're not working, I wondered about doing that. I kind of second guessed myself and thought, okay, they're not working together or anything behind the scenes, but what they are doing is pretty similar across the board. It is, hey, Ben, see you in the chat down there. Thanks for coming in, buddy. What they are doing is they are dividing this particular movement, and the text messages have shown that Steve Bannon was lying to the American people, that Steve Bannon was working behind the scenes against Trump and posturing himself for political gain somewhere down the line. And this is, in my opinion, if this stuff is true, yet another grifter is being exposed. And I've always questioned Steve Bannon. I've never had a warm and fuzzy about Steve Bannon, but let me give you my theory first, and then we're going to get into some of the specifics. So politics has become culture. This is a universal truth. Politics has become culture. And we used to be, we would say that politics is downstream from culture, culture is downstream from worldview. And the worldview that was driving America, generally speaking, was a Christian type worldview. As they removed that and then they shrunk that gap between culture and politics, the culture became the politics. So kids, adults, everybody is getting their worldview from political issues, and everything has become political. So grifters are stepping in, I believe, this is my theory. Grifters they're stepping in and taking advantage of the power that comes with that sort of change, because there's a lot. You can change all of public discourse by making these cultural issues political, or the political issues cultural. And our response to that over on the MAGA side, or the conservative movement, was TPUSA. That was Charlie Kirk's effort. The MAGA movement, Christianity was on the rise. People were looking for that trad life. You see a lot of people talking about how they wanted to live a more traditional lifestyle. And that, in my opinion, just makes it too centralized and too neat. So when people that are disruptors or agents of chaos, they have to come in and break up something like that. And what we got were a lot of nihilists or conspiracy theorists that were masquerading in some instances as Christians, or people that believed they had a higher moral cause that they needed to push, or people that were just too ambitious, or that come in and they wreck everything because they find great power and influence in the chaos and in the division in America. And I kind of see them as combatants without an enemy. So they create enemies by lying and making crap up. Case in point, Candace Owens. She was, going after the most successful conservative movement in the country. Or they make enemies out of, the strongest allies that we have. Steve Bannon is an example of this, where he, was going hard against, Elon Musk. And not saying that Elon Musk is some infallible person, but this is the guy that gave us the public square again. We had lost it with Facebook and Instagram and all the other social media accounts. He came in and gave us something better. And when we ask them about it, or we say, why are people doing this? Oh, that's just politics, right? That's just politics. But why does that have to be the way it is? And it's been that way for a long time. It really comes down, it's fairly simple. It's power. And this is what it looks like Steve Bannon was trying to do. He was trying to use Jeffrey Epstein, his power, his resources, his money, to build his own little power base behind the scenes. So, this is kind of a lengthy, long-winded way of saying that we just have to be careful who we trust. And we can't, I don't think that we can step out and say, you know what? We have to hide the people on our side that are doing wrong. I think it's a good thing when people are exposed, when grifters are exposed or potential grifters are exposed. And Steve Bannon, according to these text messages, he wanted to reform Epstein's image in some weird way so that he could use it to cash in on, information and things that would benefit his own political aspirations. And to that, I say that if somebody, and he hasn't made a statement about this, I'm going to be very interested to hear what he has to say. But if someone comes out and tries to justify why they were doing that they've lost credibility already, because a lot of these text messages and emails happened after Jeffrey Epstein had already been convicted of his crimes. And if you're willing to make a deal with a devil like Jeffrey Epstein, because you think you're doing something noble, then look, I'm sorry, but you've already lost credibility. You're on the wrong side of history, my friend. Even if somebody tries to make a deal with the devil and they get to that noble end that they say, well, this is the sacrifice I'm going to have to make to get to this noble end, your soul is already condemned at that point. You've gotten in bed with the devil, and that's just the way it is. So, I'm going to play a couple of clips from Candace Owens just as a refresher for folks who haven't been watching her. This is an older clip. This is when all of this started to kind of kick off. This is it's creating a, what's the way to put it? It's you're creating a conspiracy where none is due. But let me play this clip and tell you, and then we'll look.
By sadistic criminals, all of us, the whole world, every nation. Okay. A gang of demented psychopaths rule over us, and their solution to being caught doing psychopathic things is to murder us. To murder us. So, I just want to know why, Charlie. I want to know why the decision was made to murder Charlie Kirk, a decision that very clearly had to be approved by Charlie's friends.
And again, this is creating conspiracy where none is due. And the people that buy off on this, they're buying into the grift of these people. They buy into it hook, line, and sinker, and it frustrates me to absolutely no end. And this is to bring up something funny. Somebody posted this one. I saw your comment down here. Somebody made a comment about George Farmer. I saw this one on X. It was interesting. But she's trying to crush every successful conservative movement. This is what these people are doing. And when just look recently at the halftime show. This is a TPUSA. We could go back to Charlie Kirk's memorial service and the outpouring of faith from people, and people, a lot of them finding their way to the Lord. All these positive things. And she said, "Well, this is something I need to destroy. This is obvious. This is put dead in her crosshairs." And this is post Super Bowl. I'm going to play this one real quick.
Do you have a sense of how many people watched?
Yeah, it was kind of blew our minds actually a little bit, Brian. And we saw at one point across all the different social channels, we saw over 10 million concurrent views. So that was adding up all of Rumble and all of our partners just on the social side. So, and now the numbers keep trickling in. I mean, right now as I'm sitting here, YouTube's numbers keep updating. And so we're trying to put it all together. What I can safely say is that we are now over 20 million viewers across just social. So we haven't even gotten our partner broadcasters, their analytics. As you know, sometimes the ratings take a little while, but that's 20 million viewers. And we don't know how many people were gathered together, 3, 4, 10 in a room watching together. So we're going to try and put a final number on that when we can. What we can safely say is over 20 million Americans tuned into the All-American Halftime Show tonight.
That's what he can safely say. Now, for people who have been on YouTube, YouTubers, so to speak, like myself, for more than 10 years, I was just in awe that they were going to try to sell this, that they were going to do what he did with his face and just lie and pretend that 6 million, I think even at one point to 10 million, but it's 6 million concurrent viewers they had on YouTube alone, okay? If you know YouTube at all, that's just not true on its face. It's actually, I laughed when I saw, I was like, this is actually crazy. I can't believe they're actually going to try to pull this off. And I'm going to walk you through this so you don't even have to have...
So I don't need to play the rest of it. Basically what she does is she goes on to try to debunk the viewership. As opposed to saying this is a positive thing, this is a good thing, let's find some way to disrupt it. And how is that different? Aside from she is obviously outspoken about the pedophile networks and all of the stuff that's going on. So that puts her on a different sphere than Steve Bannon in this whole division within MAGA and the conservative movement. However, being a disruptor for a disruptor's sake is they're accomplishing the same ends. Now, you might be saying, okay, well, what are you talking about, Jared? What are you talking about? Okay, so here's one of the text messages from Steve Bannon, and this one is highlighted down here. I have to give a shout out to, I believe it was Treble Woe, who posted all of these text messages. But to do that shows that Donald J. Trump is center of gravity for this movement and not me. Will never do. They are transitory figures. The DC game is to succumb to that. It's why I never did. Why I never did before joining campaign. I could have been the Trump whisperer years ago. Avoided it on purpose. The implication that he is making here is this whole Donald J. Trump movement. It's him. It shouldn't be him. It should be me. I'm the one. I need the influence. I need the power. I'm the one who should be getting all of the kudos for this. And it's the number of text messages here. This is a whole text thread with them where, we could go through all the nitnoid details of this, talking about flying to the Bahamas together. This one was, let's see, more in Stormy, talking about Stormy Daniels and all of this. Let me find the other one here. This, if nothing else, this also shows just how frequently they were communicating. Like, this is one of these, the text messages in here. They referenced the chief legal correspondent, the chief counsel for Goldman Sachs, who was in the room. And basically, Steve Bannon was saying, or Jeffrey Epstein was saying, hey, do you have any questions for said lawyer? Which her name was, let me pull up her video, Emily Rumler. So Emily Rumler, who was the chief counsel for Goldman Sachs, later stepped down because of her relationship to Jeffrey Epstein. I just put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. Jeffrey Epstein. This woman is referenced in here. They're sitting in the same rooms with these people. It paints a very, very nefarious picture of Steve Bannon, but more than that, his willingness to do deals with the devil, which is Jeffrey Epstein, in order to try and disrupt what Trump has going on in the MAGA movement. All out of envy is what it looks like. Let's see here. I'm trying to pull up. There was a couple other ones. They were talking about George Soros, talking about his son, Alex. So I would agree with him on that one. Alex Soros is an absolute doof. But this looks horribly, horribly bad for Jeffrey Epstein. And we were warned about this. You guys, people that we're not friends with Steve Bannon. And Steve Bannon has had the ear of the President of the United States. Steve Bannon has had the ear of a lot of powerful people inside of MAGA. Let me minimize all these windows. This guy's sitting here chatting away with Jeffrey Epstein. Meanwhile, Roger Stone had come out in 2018. He'd brought this all to light. And let's see, that was the wrong clip. Let me pull up the other Roger Stone clip. I think I grabbed the wrong one. Let's see. This was the post that I grabbed. There was a separate video of him back in 2018. Let me see if I can find this because it's definitely worth playing. And he did a much better job of explaining it than I'm going to because he lives in that world. He has lived in that world. Let's see. Roger Stone, Steve. I must have left it in here and not grabbed it. Steve Bannon. Let's see. Roger Stone told us about, here we go. This is the one. Let's pull this one up.
Why would somebody who is allegedly a national...
Oh, here we go.
But the question is, and I'm going to let Jacob take over because I really am running out of steam. Why would somebody who is allegedly a nationalist, somebody who's allegedly against the globalists, somebody who's allegedly pledged his loyalty to the president, meeting with a man who, according to the Miami Herald, only recently was caught trafficking 80 underage children of both sexes to his pedophile buddies around the globe? Why would you meet with such a person? What productive purpose could you have sitting down in the home of some person if you weren't begging for money? So those conservatives, those nationalists, those Trump supporters out there who think Steve Bannon is a good guy, Sloppy Steve is in bed with Jeffrey Epstein. You need to be asking him why.
And, I see it down in the comments. You guys are saying, I didn't even know about this stuff. I had heard there were internet rumblings about Steve Bannon, and he was a shady character. For me, I didn't have any evidence of that. I just said, I don't know if I entirely trust the guy. Just a stopped clock can be right twice a day. You know what I mean? And you can say something and it sounds good. Candace Owens could say something and it sounds good. She could say something that is truthful. But it's the 10% truth, the 90% lie, or even if it's 80% truth, but there's 20% lie, or you're being 100% honest, and behind the scenes you're doing something other than what you're saying to the American people or to your audience. All those are all bad things, right? I think we can all agree that makes you a degenerate of sorts. And his just countenance was something that weirded me out. But I'm not going to make a judgment off, about somebody simply based on their countenance. Now that all of this information has come out, people they're raising the red flags. And it's not just Steve Bannon. Because of this, we talk about it all the time on this channel, how the MAGA movement has been so divided by these actors, these chaos agents, whatever you want to call them. And this is something posted by Cat Turd, but he makes a good point. And I was scrolling through a lot of these other influencers and politicians who kind of latched onto Steve Bannon as this arbiter of greatness, whatever. This is Cat Turd. He said, funny how Marjorie Taylor Greene, who pretends to care about the Epstein victims more than anyone on the planet, is dead silent about her good friend Steve Bannon's thousands of disgusting messages with his BFF, Jeffrey Epstein. So she's on his show every day, but somehow now crickets, it's almost like the caring is all fake grandstanding. I don't think while he makes a point that people should come out and say, okay, if all this is accurate or this is accurate, we believe in the validity of the Epstein files that we have received. Steve Bannon is like, you have to start separating yourself from that guy. Silence immediately is that to me is not a red flag, because they're thinking about, just like we were talking earlier, politics is politics. And they're thinking about how can they circumvent this situation, or how can they, so that's what they're doing. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. I'm just saying that's probably why they're posturing, and all this stuff has come out. There's not going to be a justification that anybody, myself included, is going to accept when Steve Bannon comes out and tries to say, this is why I was communicating it in this volume with a convicted PDF like Jeffrey Epstein, one of the most prolific ones in history. But the people that won't do it, again, to be called out. When a grace period of whatever time you want to give them has passed, if you don't say something about it, if you don't distance yourself from it, then you're saying, okay, that's fine, I'm complicit. This should be something that if true, completely upends Steve Bannon's political career. What do you guys think down in the comments, down in the chat? You let me know. It's a big, big deal. And the reason that I focus on the grifters a lot inside of MAGA and the conservative movement is because I saw the positive direction that we were moving as a country. It was this unified movement. And now to have the agents of chaos come in and divide us up around silly things that don't need to be dividing us, or around just bold-faced lies in the case of Candace Owens, I think this is we're the movement, the new conservative movement, the MAGA movement. This is what was going to be the unified movement against all of the things that have infected our culture for my entire life. That I think back to the 90s. I was born in the 80s. I was born in 81, actually. So I'm 45 years old. And when I was coming up through the 90s, these things were non-issues, right? They were, a guy says he's a woman. That's just weird. Right now, it's no, we have to accept these things, and we make them political so that people are voting for them, and they're voting for acceptance. It's just the false, just like the false equivalent, not the false equivalencies, but you kind of get what I'm saying. They brought these things into the culture, and we're against a Democrat Party who is, aside from having a horribly, horribly skewed worldview, not based on any solid moral framework. It's all based on moral relativism and just that kind of nonsense. But we have people who they are lying to us. Like, it's bad enough when the people that are supposed to be or purport to be on our side are lying to us. We have Democrats who are willfully going out here to deceive voters. This is a lady in North Carolina. She's a Republican candidate in North Carolina. And let's play this real quick.
I'm not a real Republican. Like, I am telling people the truth. I knock on a door and I say I'm running in the Republican primary, but I'm not a Republican. I'm a progressive. I'm running as a Republican in the Republican primary for Congressional District 14 because that is where the actual competition happens in our gerrymandered district. It happens in the primaries. Like, if you're in a district that is a lock for Democrats, that Democratic primary is where the competition is. And quite frankly, while the can't win strategy is about building for the long term and like building our bench and being ready for fair maps in 2030, we got to fucking win right now.
Sure.
Because we are in an emergency, like a democratic emergency. And so the place I can win is as a fake Republican.
So this is the thing that scares me about this is this, I'm worried about this becoming the norm for Democrat politicians, that in these Republican districts, they will come out and, I mean, Abigail Spanberger, she just straight up lied to Virginians. She's a moderate Democrat is how she pitched herself. And she comes in and she wields her pen and their power in the state of Virginia to turn a state into California overnight, essentially. Now we've got people who are saying, oh, I'm a Republican, I'm a Republican. A boatload of voters will go in and they will check next to the R and they will give power over to radical leftists who have obviously no morals because they're willing to lie so openly. Get on a podcast and tell them, oh, yeah, I'm lying to the voters. Yeah, I'm lying to them. I'm not an actual Republican. No, but I'm running as one. It's crazy. That's what we're up against. So that's why I say it's good when, you know, we look, the folks that watch this show on a regular basis, and I see all you guys down in the chat. Y'all are awesome. You're informed about this stuff. And on this show, we're trying to let other people know about the deceptions, not just from the left, because a lot of it is so crazy. It's relatively easy to dismiss. But we've got people on our side who are going to lie to us, who are going to deceive us. And traditional values, again, I talked about this, that this was part of the movement, right? And the left, they hate it. They hate traditional values. Traditional values, somebody, excuse me, that wants to be a trad wife or that you want to have a traditional relationship. This is what they can't allow. And this is why these divisions in our party, they're breaking up the movement that was fighting against it. I mean, just as a reminder, look what they're doing to our kids in schools, in public education. These kids are doing ICE protests. They're swinging fists. It's getting violent out there. These young kids are being indoctrinated by their teachers. We need a cohesive movement on the right if we are going to fight back against this in the political sphere. And in the cultural sphere, right? We've got a worldview that is above government. The left does not. So when somebody says, "Oh, TPUSA," the ceremony, it was like a mega church, this, that, the third. Okay, well, who cares? People were engulfed with the Holy Spirit at a memorial for a great, great American. And only somebody like a Candace Owens, who purports to be a Christian, but in a lot of ways doesn't act like it. We always say by their fruits you'll know them. Why would you have an issue with that? What is your issue with that? Because that's the movement, what Charlie Kirk started at TPUSA, that was the movement that was going to supplant all the old ways of doing things or all the things that have been brought into our culture, into our schools. And in Canada, which by as Canada goes, so goes a lot of the U.S. This is the Canadian police, one of the Canadian police officers in, let's see, I believe, forget which province it was. It's police, federal police. I guess it's their federal police force. Listen to this.
Well, radicalization in general quite often will show by people isolating themselves and changing their behavior, like changing what they're saying on a subject, like becoming more extremist. And if someone was very believed in equal gender rights, but all of a sudden are leaning towards like traditional values, and that might be a sign that they're becoming more extremist.
So we're the extremists, right? In Canada, that's the case. But as it goes in Canada and a lot of other lefty, whether it's countries or states here in the U.S., so goes it in the United States. That they are unified. The globalist message is unified. We can, I think, all agree on. Which makes the Steve Bannon thing even worse, because Steve Bannon is willing to get in bed with the globalists for his own political ends. And I can hit you with these all day long. I see some new folks down in the chat. I want to welcome you guys aboard. Please feel free, if you haven't done so, this will be my quick little interlude, to say that if you haven't hit all the free buttons below, it's super helpful for the channel. There's a lot of free buttons down there. Tap them all. The like button, the notification bell, the subscribe button, all that good stuff. Helps out the channel a whole lot. We are growing, and it's thanks to you guys. But we're going to win this culture war, I believe, because this is the type of thing we rail against all the time. This is the trans movement, which is another one of those issues that's been brought down to the cultural level, or has in that merger of the cultural political sphere. All that has been brought together. Now we've got kids who are, SA going on during wrestling matches where they're putting guys against girls. Now, I will say, as a former wrestler, we had girls that would wrestle that would be on the wrestling team with guys. We did have a couple. In fact, we had, I think, 2 when I was in high school. And those girls, though, they wrestled other girls. They weren't being put against dudes because you lost. I mean, I'm sorry. At least we could recognize the biological differences. But when you get these kids who are pretending to be something else, that are jacked up on hormones and SSRIs and other things that are rewiring their brain chemistry, you have, like what we had in Canada recently with the shooter, you get people that are messed in the head. And you're putting women in compromising situations with deranged men. And I'm going to get to all these comments, by the way. I see a lot of them down here. I'll get to the chat here in just a minute. I appreciate you guys leaving all that content. Here we go. This is a lefty. Again, generally I'm a PG on this. I try to keep this show PG. This one, I think there might be some language in this one. So if you got kids around, earmuffs, volume, whatever.
Yeah, I'm going to punch you.
You're going to punch me?
Yes.
And you're going to get in trouble for that.
Okay.
I need to know who this hero is. Who is this hero? Okay, let me lay this scenario out for you. This happened in Chicago. A high school in Chicago had a planned protest to protest ICE. Just so happens, at this high school, there is one agitator. Just one. This little Waldo-looking dude. This little Waldo-looking dude was the one running around with his I love ICE sign. Well, this hero, let me tell you, for a kid, I wouldn't mess with this kid. This kid had to be like 6'4", 230, and this little Waldo liked to talk back to him. I need to know who this hero is.
So these are adults who are telling kids online, giving them justification for the violence that they're committing against other students. That's what we're against. That's why we can't afford to have these ridiculously divisive figures. And that's not on our side. We have to stay a unified movement. And I will say that disagreement is entirely different from people who are intentionally deceiving us. We have to be honest about that. We're a big tent over here. We want to be a big tent on the right. So we're going to have people that disagree with us. But that and debating certain issues and policies is very different from people that are lying to us, because the left is lying to us. The left is influencing our kids through social media. The left is always unified. So at the very least, we have to have a movement that says, I got it. There's ancillary things that we're going to have to discuss and debate, but let's at least move forward with, a common worldview and common aims and goals and all of that. I hope I'm making sense. Okay, let's go to, okay, I was going to play, let me play one other clip here. This is one from, look, I don't know exactly where I sit 100% on Thomas Massie. I've got my opinions, but I'm still kind of drawing them out. Is he just being a disruptor for disruptor's sake because he's mad at Donald Trump? Or is he really bent around the morals and principles that he says he is? I'm starting to question that a bit. Quite a bit, actually. Khanna was on, he and Thomas Massie have teamed up here recently. And Khanna was on Tim Pool's podcast, and he seems like a reasonable guy. In fact, I think he was on PBD. He's been on several more conservative-leaning podcasts and shows. He and Thomas Massie have teamed up, and this was to make some big breaking news around the Epstein files.
And we learned
Listen
that
to
70
this. Oh, come on, X-Player. Do your job. Well, if you guys watch this show on a regular basis, you know I have a love-hate relationship with the X video player sometimes. Let me close that out.
that 70 to
Oh, come on.
% of the files are still redacted. In fact, there were 6 wealthy, powerful men that the DOJ hid for no apparent reason. When Congressman Massie and I pointed this out to the Department of Justice, they acknowledged their mistake, and now they have revealed the identity of these 6 powerful men. These men are Salvatore Navora,
So he reads off the name, and what has been divulged is that 4 of the people that was part of this big win, 4 of them were just people who were selected for a random photo lineup. And they're saying, see, the Trump administration's doing this. See, the Trump administration is doing this. And not to mention how quiet they were, or I don't want to say quiet. I think Thomas Massie was saying quite a bit about it. But there's a lot of folks out there who were pretty quiet during the Biden administration when it came to these things. But over here on the right, because they don't like Trump, this is, and look, even in my personal life, I see this. When you debate political issues with folks who say they're conservative, or they say they're more right-leaning, or they say they're, whatever, you pick your poison. That the argument is always about Trump and never about the actual issue. Like, let's talk about it's the folks that live in a headline culture is what it is. And so many people do. They read a headline and they take it for granted. Just like we were talking about yesterday, that if you look at the Apple podcast the Apple News app, that they went 96 consecutive days without ever putting anything conservative in front of the American people. They were just pushing left-wing slop. And people go to Google and they Google search something. Oh, what about this? And what does Google show you? Well, it shows you left-wing slop. So they get into this headline culture. And then when you say, well, that's not accurate, like around ICE in Minneapolis, people say that there was a pregnant woman drugged through the street or drugged through the snow. Well, that woman who said she was pregnant was not visibly pregnant. There's never been any proof that she was pregnant other than she said that she was pregnant. And she hasn't come out and said, yes, I was pregnant, or offered any proof that she was pregnant. They just ran with the story because she said a thing. And that's not a valid criticism of ICE. Are there valid criticisms of ICE? Yes. But they don't want to have those criticisms. And they say this is just indicative of law enforcement who's going out here and just randomly killing a bunch of black people in the street. And you say, well, did you look at the Manhattan Institute study? That told you that there were, right post George Floyd, they went back and did a study. In that study, there were 14 unarmed black men who were actually killed. And that's out of 49 million police interactions. So there was a 0.00002% chance of an unarmed black man being shot. But they run with it as if it's an epidemic. They just know the headlines, and they're not willing to have conversations about the actual statistics. They say, well, I've been told this, so that's got to be what it is. We can't, it's frustrating. And they just say, but Donald Trump bad. That's their ultimate retort is, but Donald Trump bad. And I hate seeing that on the right because people just say, well, Donald Trump is just, this is not going to work. It's like when Tucker was at every turn, everything that Donald Trump has done is we're going to get in another war. We're going to get in another war. It's another war. It's going to be World War III, World War III, World War III, World War III. They ain't happened yet. Where's the war? They just move on to the next thing. But Trump bad, Trump dumb. It's okay, MTX. You said you're late. I'm late, so I'm super behind on the stream. It's all good. It's all good. And use our voices. There you go. Great point. I saw this one right at the end of the chat. This is absolutely right. We got to get strong and mobilize and use our voices to be loud and not silent. 100%. And the political fight that we're in against the left. That's why I don't like the infighting on the right. We're going to have some, but Josh Hawley, he called out the A.G. Ellison because they're fighting all the stuff up in Minnesota. And Trump, I am disappointed in Trump. I got to give criticisms where criticisms are due. Pulling ICE out of Minneapolis is a bad thing. It's not a good thing. Josh Hawley jumped on this guy.
Now, this is the truth. This is what accountability looks like, of which you've had none. You helped fraudsters defraud your state and this government of $9 billion, and you got a fat campaign contribution out of it. You ought to be indicted.
True. Well,
that's the truth.
I think we've made the point. Let's keep the tenor.
Well,
just
for the record,
I'll ask how I want
he's
to,
lying,
Paul.
and that's the truth.
Oh no, this is all on the record,
no, sir.
Did you bother to investigate where the money that you facilitated their fraud for, where it went? Do you know where it went, what it was used for, the fraudulent money? I do, because we just heard testimony about it yesterday.
Because we were
funds
key
went
players in the
hundreds of millions of dollars to terrorist groups, to transnational criminal organizations, to the drug trade, to drug trafficking, to child trafficking. And you took $10,000
That's a lie.
And helped them do it. You know, the other thing is, whistleblowers came to you as early as 2019. Let's look.
So I'm thankful for the people who get in here. I know a lot of this stuff in the House and the Senate is political theater. Like, we get a lot of political theater. Fine. We're going to get that they're going to make spectacles out of things. But this is what we're fighting against. We're fighting against the fraud. And it's, restoring a little bit of accountability, I guess would be the best way to put it. It's just restoring some accountability to our federal government that has grown to a massive level. It shrunk under Donald Trump for the first time since it was the 60s or 70s. We can win this thing. I'm not an overly pessimistic person when it comes to America. Sometimes I feel like I am. I feel like my mind goes to pessimism. And it goes to pessimism when I start seeing the number, like the sheer volume of people who buy into the very grifters that we started off the show with, the people who are deceiving us. And some of it's not their fault, because it is presented. Anything said confidently can be pretty believable. That's what gets people on the left. It's said very confidently that, a man can be a woman and a woman can be a man. They say it with great confidence and with a lot of gusto. But that doesn't mean that it's right. However, I'm not that pessimistic because I do see enough people who are pushing aside the politics for what it is. But I worry most about the ones that they buy into it hook, line, and sinker, and they just latch into these false stories. And then what that does to somebody's psyche, if you sit and watch the War Room every day, and you watched Steve Bannon tell you, you're getting your information, and millions of people were, or hundreds of thousands of people were. What does that say when your hero or your arbiter of truth that you found on the internet, that he was in bed with an international PDF ring that was going on amongst all the powerful people in the world? That upends a lot of people. That messes with people's psyche. But there's a lot of us out here who are, myself included, I'm perfectly happy criticizing people on the right as well as the left. And I don't do it for the sake of division. I do it for the sake of transparency. Because, look, some of it is just debate, right? Like I was saying before. But some of it is because that, like, the fabric of our country is truly at risk. I believe that it is. And, I'm going to end on this one, and then I'll get to the comments, because you guys have been burning up the chat, and I really appreciate it, because I see some really good comments down here. I always get to the comments towards the end. One of our saving graces may be that the Democrats, while they, their worldview is entirely skewed, it's lack of moral clarity, and it's It's bad. It's bad. It's really bad, the things that they are trying to do. Ripping the moral foundation, the moral fabric of our country to shreds. At least their politicians are still pretty stupid. And here we go.
On Ukraine, what does victory look like? Ambassador.
No, please.
On Ukraine, what does victory look like? Ambassador.
No, please. I'd love to hear your answer.
Yeah, it is. The two that I am on the panel with are much more steeped in foreign policy than a governor is. But I do think that Ukraine's independence, keeping their land mass, and having the support of all the allies, I think is the goal from my vantage point.
This is a woman that they wanted to run for office, wanted to run for president. She was definitely in the talks. And who was one of the other people on the panel that they were referencing? AOC, folks. AOC was the other one. Here we go. This is AOC when asked about Taiwan.
And Congressman, I'll start with you. Would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is a...
Today, Junior!
This is, of course, a very long-standing policy of the United States. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point. And we want to make sure...
Like bumbling, just bumbling. But she's one of the darlings of the left. So thankfully, they're putting up pretty bad candidates. But we're a ways away from the presidential election. But nonetheless, they've got a lot of dum-dums over on their side. That helps us, but that doesn't help with the number of people in this country who buy into the stuff that they're saying, to the headlines that are pushed on their media outlets, like MSNBC, ABC. I'm kind of taking CBS out of it because CBS has actually started to do some pretty decent journalism. Hey, we got a super chat. Thank you. Let's see. I got to stop the show for that one. Common sense and actual America first. You got that right. I love this country. I love this country, and I love the people in this country. More important than the country. I thought about this before the show. How would I talk about this? And it's like, you remember the old thing, to bring up a church thing that we used to do when we were kids, what is it? This is the church and this is the steeple. You open the doors and you see all the people. I don't know why that came to mind, but that's what it is. This, it's about the people, and you want to give the best opportunities you can to the American people. To do that is I'm sorry, the only answer right now is more conservatism. Leftism is going to take money, resources, all of that. I love America, love this country, and I put it first. Well, I put the Lord first, but behind that is, family and my country, my nation. So thank you so much for the super chat. That's what helps this channel grow. I appreciate you guys. Y'all are awesome. Let me shut up and get to some more of these great comments that we've got. I appreciate everybody down in the chat. Let me give one quick little disclaimer here. Oops, let me pull that chat down. Hit all those free buttons. I just had it hidden with our super chat here. Let me pull that. There it went. Yeah, let me play that again. Just as a reminder, hit all the free buttons below. It really helps the channel out, helps us with the algorithm. As I say, we are growing, and I'm grateful to people that I've had, folks that have had me on their podcasts. Helps with growth, helps get me out of the algorithm. It's awesome. So shout out to Gary from Paramount Tactical. He had me on not too long ago. Here pretty soon, there's another podcast that I'm going to be on. We'll see. So let's get to the one of the best live chats that the internet has to offer. Let's see. Just got the notification up here. Yeah, I saw you in here, Ben. We got to see who's number one in the chat right now. MTX is number one in the chat right now. And who's number two? KC. KC is number two in the chat right now. Let's see. Hey, we got another super chat. Thank you. I wasn't born here. I'm agreeing here legally, and I love America. I'm scared to lose it. These idiots. Oh, there you go. That's awesome. That's what I love to hear. I wasn't born here. I immigrated here legally, and I love America. I'm scared to lose it to these idiots and bad people, but Christ is on our side. There you go. You know, you bring up a great story. One of my one of the favorite things that I ever experienced was when I was in the military, and I was down in Louisiana, and we had a ceremony for one of our soldiers who had, you know, they came to America, they were in the immigration process, they joined the military, and while they were serving in our military, someone who immigrated here legally, they were awarded their citizenship. And it was like, it was like this huge celebration, because before he was even an American citizen, he was serving this country because he loved this country. And I think that's part of the, you know, the legal immigration process. It creates buy-in and people that want to assimilate. That it's like, I thought it was awesome. And so that's the sort of thing that I love. When people come here and they love this country, they know that what they left was worse, that you come here and you do what you can to, you know, make it a better place. Curly Girl says, so thank you for the super chats. I truly appreciate it. Curly Girl says that Steve Bannon has always given me the ick. Yeah, he's kind of giving me the ick too. Let's see. Has actively Candace actively infiltrated the right, buried herself so deep. Yeah, there you go. Has actively infiltrated the right, buried herself so deep that when doing what she's doing, it's completely destroying the country. Oh, we've got some comments over here on Rumble. I'm going to apologize to my Rumble folks. Bannon and Candace Owens are both obvious left-leaning, pretending to be conservative. That's from Kim. Thank you so much, Kim. Let's see. Chikia, and I'm sorry for my folks over on Rumble. I can't put your comments up because of my software. It doesn't show me the Rumble comments, but I have the Rumble chat over here. So, Chikia said 2021 says Candace Owens is a toxic, deranged Catholic indoctrination that refused to investigate Catholicism and the origin of the popes. That's interesting. That I you know, there's some interesting stuff on that, but yeah, okay. Let's see. I question who Candace actually entertains. Jeremy Hamling thinks it's political wine moms, and I tend to agree. Yeah, you know, it's the stories, right? It's like a modern day soap opera is what she's making, except it's one person sitting in front of a microphone telling the story. Yeah, but I think you're right. Gary, he calls it, what is the wine slop? Something, I forget what it was. It's funny. I said I was going to remember it, and I completely forgot what he said. I've tried to use it a couple times. Let's see. She needs to be put on a 3-day minimum psych hold. Let's see. Fire Dragon, welcome to the chat, Fire Dragon. Her whole marriage is fake gay. I mean, you gotta. George Farmer's, he's so strange. The way their whole relationship is weird. Look, people can meet and they can build a relationship pretty quickly. I know people who have done that, but that the way that all that came about and the way he describes it's very strange. It's so strange. So much because we're beyond shock and more. Let's see. She is. Initially, I doubted that Candace has a romantic thing with Charlie, but now I'm seriously second guessing it. Yeah. That's what I kind of assumed that it was like, it was high school jealousy, you know, the other girl got the guy sort of thing. I don't know. Yeah. So again, like kind of like we were talking about earlier, the Steve Bannon stuff, it came in a bit of a firestorm. And like I was showing you that initial, let's see, where was it? The one showing all the number of emails that were in the files. Like, he's right up there with Reid Hoffman. Like, that's no joke. Reid Hoffman, by the way, is the guy who funded the E. Jean Carroll lawsuit against Donald Trump. And he's the head of LinkedIn. He's a huge, Democrat political donor. Let's see. Do y'all remember everyone getting so mad at Ben Shapiro calling him out? Yeah. And there you go. This is true. Let's see. Did he really? I didn't know that. that he made an Epstein documentary. I knew he had done a ton of interviews with him, and similar to what Roger Stone had said, why are you doing all these interviews with a guy who is this nefarious? Like, what would be the purpose behind it? And from the texts, he was basically talking about how they were going to reshape Jeffrey Epstein's image. This is kind of what they were alluding to. They're going to reshape Jeffrey Epstein's image, presumably because it would help him in the long run to continue to wield power and money politically. I think Ben has always been honest about. If their names are Taliban Charleston, Creptard Owens, Milo Yiannopoulos, Nick Fuentes, and any who are opposed to support Islam, they're fake. Yeah, I mean, look, the whole siding with Qatar thing, Candace has even put this aside. When she interviewed Harvey Weinstein, which, interestingly enough, she does these interviews and she says all this stuff. It's in complete violation of YouTube's policies. But when she was interviewing Harvey Weinstein said, yeah, it was Qatar who's controlling a lot of Hollywood and all of that. It's Qatar. It's all that money that they've got, the trillions of dollars that they have access to in oil money. And they do it. Look, they do it in our universities. $6.4 billion. I think it was 6.4. It was over $6 billion a year that they're pumping into our universities. That's pumping money into our indoctrination factories. They've given hundreds of millions of dollars in lobbying for politics. And we're supposed to, and their worldview is entirely antithetical to our worldview, to what we see as a constitutional representative republic. It does not align in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And just like they did in, whether it's Jordan or Lebanon or, you pick the country, all these previously Christian countries, Islam comes in and upends all of it. They're now Islamic countries. And we're supposed to side with that, where they put in versions of Sharia law. No, thank you. No, thank you. Yep, there you go. Charlie built the coalition. And this is where Charlie Kirk was so effective, that he would identify the people who, you got to separate some ideas from the others. It's separating the wheat from the chaff, I guess. And you see who is actually worth having a conversation with. And to the point before that Smiles had made up here, that throwing Nick Fuentes in there and Milo Yiannopoulos, there was a reason that Charlie Kirk didn't want to work with them. He didn't want to work with them because he didn't believe that they were serious actors in the movement. And I agree with that. I totally agree with that. That was the case then, and it's the case now. Let's see. Thank you for this channel. TPUSA was vital in saving America, and that's what we have a lot of CIA agents. Well, you're very welcome. I'm glad you enjoy the channel. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it. The chats these are like one of my favorite parts of the show, is getting into the chat. I'm shocked by this point that I haven't had more haters in the chat, because that always happens. I love bringing them up and talking to them. TPUSA was vital in saving America, and that's why Craptards is trying to bring it down. We have a lot of Obama, Biden, CIA agents perfectly dividing us. Yeah. Yep. You can't play nice with the deep state. And that made me wonder, and this is me just speculating, did Steve Bannon think that he, knowing what Jeffrey Epstein was, but knowing what he had access to, that he could still stay on the moral high ground and work this guy as if it was his own asset in order to get political power and money and influence and get access to the information that Epstein had? I don't know. I really don't know. But it's weird to say I'm going to rail against the deep state and rail against all these things, but then I'm going to go ahead and behind the scenes I'm in bed with it. At the very least, you're just a liar, right? I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. I feel politically homeless. The fact that the biggest voices are silent on such obvious grifters, and many everyday people fall for it because they lack discernment. I don't want my hat in with them. That's a great point. Politically homeless. I don't feel politically homeless, though. I will kind of make a point on this. I don't feel politically homeless. I know where I sit. Kind of like Milton Friedman when he would say, and I know I've repeated it a million times on this channel, that it's not that we need new leadership or new representation. We just need to make it politically profitable for the wrong people to do the right things. That's what I think we need to do. And as long as we're, as long as we have some like the core foundation of our beliefs, we want to have secure borders. We want to have a successful economy. We want what's best for our kids. We don't want them to be indoctrinated. We want to have law and order inside of our society. We don't want to have the government spending far more money than we are bringing in, and this massive deficit spending and so on and so forth. We have some pretty stringent, guidelines that we set forth in the MAGA movement. Donald Trump hasn't done all of them perfectly. He's done what he can in the amount of time that he has had so far, which is in 1 year as president. He's been doing pretty good. He deserves plenty of criticism, but he's doing pretty good. And when I heard about the stat on shrinking the federal government for the first time since the 60s, one of my favorite presidents is Calvin Coolidge, and that was really what he was known for, was shrinking the executive branch, shrinking the federal government. There's a story in his biography where they were pinching the budget so tight that in these, I think it was in, I don't remember which department, might have been in any of the political buildings or in the White House or in the whatever, that you had to, when you had a pencil that you were using to do your paperwork, you had to bring back a pencil that was down to a nub before they would issue you another one. It was really crazy, just astronomical levels of cuts. And I'm okay with that because I acknowledge, and you guys I'm sure do as well, the fraud, waste, and abuse, something has to be done about it. $9 billion just going into, it's now more than that. I think it's 14. Some people are speculating as high as 30 billion coming just out of one state. And the money is pumped into every state. California, I'm sure all the left-wing states, they're getting massive, or we can't assume, we know that they are getting massive amounts of federal money, and how much of it of this fraud is being repeated in other states. We're going to find out about it. And when we do, that it has to be brought to the forefront. And when we see, I hope that people that are sitting middle of the road, when they see politicians fighting to keep the federal money that is going to Al-Shabaab, like it is in Minnesota, getting shipped out of this country, funding international terrorist organizations, or that they see that the politicians fighting to keep the fraudulent money in place because it's getting circled back around into their political campaigns, I hope the people that are in the middle will say, you know what? Even though I'm not a fan of Trump, at least the lesser of two evils says I don't support that because I'm having a hard time buying groceries. I'm having a hard time putting gas in my vehicle. Sorry, that was a long tirade about one comment, but I said that to say I don't feel, back to your point, MT, I don't feel particularly homeless politically, but there are people out here, there's a lot of us who are trying to speak truth to the American people. And we give an opinion and we could be wrong, but we're not out here to deceive people. We're just out here to give you our opinion and let you do with it as you want. Massie, Jay, that's a great point. Let's see. The fact that he voted against the Takedown Act, which would that was a big deal, Jay. Yes, he voted. Talking about Thomas Massie, he's voted against a lot of the Trump, some of his keystone policies that he was trying to get through, that Trump and the Republicans were. But the AI corn stuff that's huge. It was against deep state or deep fake corn. I can't say the P word on YouTube. But you can't be that much of a libertarian that you say, well, it's okay for somebody to create your likeness and put them in a compromising situation. How in the world do you vote against something like that? And let me add to that real quick and to say that I guess this would be saying too in his defense. When I look at a bill, they name it a certain thing and they put in a key piece of legislation like this, right? That is protecting against the AI corn and things like that. But what else is in it? So the bills that when I read the first time I'd ever read a bill was back in, I guess it would have been 2020, 2021. It was the first COVID spending bill. And I downloaded, it was 1,864 pages. That was the first draft of it. So there's a first draft that went out. Then there was another version that came out. And I couldn't keep up. But I saw that there's money in there for all the things to keep the country afloat. But then there was a massive amount of pork in it. There's a massive amount of regulation in it, to the tune of, in some cases, in the first COVID bill, they were saying they were going to keep the what do you call them? The unions, the union funds were going to be funded by the federal taxpayers by the American people. They were going to be funded at 80% for the next 20 years. That was something that was in a piece of legislation. You can't vote for something like that. Keep the country afloat. But now they're saying, well, while we're in here, go ahead and give us a guarantee that we can be reckless with our pension funds, and you'll just bail us out, like bailing out the unions. Like, it's crazy stuff. So in his defense, there could have been other things in the bill that he didn't like. Just my thought. Truth is, our side is generally weak, and unless they tighten and toughen up, it's going to... Okay, there you go. Yeah, the left wants us seeing reality isn't black pill. The truth is our side is generally weak, and unless they tighten and toughen up, it's going to be a disaster. You're right. I do agree with that. We have to be much tougher than we are. We've got to be hard-nosed. And we're also at a disadvantage. You know, our disadvantage is that we want to adhere to the rule of law. We don't want to go in here and do things that are unconstitutional. The left does the unconstitutional thing, and then it's kind of better to ask for forgiveness than permission. We say, no, we want permission to do it. We want to do things within the left and right limits of the law. They don't care about the law. It's all about the power to them. Yeah. Nothing seems to happen as a result. Yeah, okay, there you go, Curly Girly. This is a totally valid point. My only issue with these hearings is that nothing ever seems to happen as a result, and guilty folks suffer zero real consequences. I agree with that. I do agree with that. Yeah, well, I mean, Hillary Clinton sat in front of Congress and just lied her face off about Benghazi, and nothing happens to her. You know, life goes on. Don't let people gaslight you. Seeing reality isn't pessimism. And if it is, so be it. Calling things what they are supposed to be normal. Let's see. There you go. That's a great comment. Hit the like, people. Hit that like button. Yeah. Megyn Kelly, being perfectly honest, I haven't listened to Megyn Kelly a whole lot lately. I don't know. I can't see. I'm a small platform, right? I'm a small platform. Who am I beholden to? I'm beholden to my 1,800 and some odd subscribers, right? That's who I'm beholden to. And sometimes tens of thousands of people see my videos, or 10,000 or more people see my videos. And I just don't want to sit there and lie to anybody. It's, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to be an honest arbiter of the information that I've got. And I'm going to give you my opinion. This is how I perceive whatever's going on in the world. But when you get that big, it's like, what stops you from doing that? Why? Like, at that point, you're controlling a massive chunk of the narrative. Like, why? Is it because you've built such close friendships with these other people that you just say, well, they lied, I can't call them out because that'll ruin our friendship? No, like, I'm sorry. At that point, you know, you kind of have to. You say, well, this just isn't accurate. Have them on the show and say, you said this. Then have a discussion about it. I mean, you have to come out and attack them. But Megyn is it's just weird. I haven't quite put my finger on what her deal is lately. As AOC mentioned, even one policy that makes sense. Yeah, no. That photo of her in the chain link fence. Oh, the you know, holding on to it, and the perfect leading lines from her photographer that, you know, wearing white and all that, going to the border. Golly. Let's see. Oh, Tracy, I didn't see your super chat. I was sitting here looking at this one. I'm sorry, Tracy. Whoa, super chat. Goodness gracious. Thank you so much for that 20. I appreciate it. George is a Georgie boy. He's a beta male. Yes. He totally is. He totally is. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for that. That means the world to me. I appreciate it. George is a Georgie boy. Is a Georgie boy? Oh, okay. I think I see what you're saying with that. Okay. George is a Georgie boy. I got you. He's a beta male. Oh man. He is very, and I think you're talking about George Farmer. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'll scroll down in the comments to get it. But Yeah, I think you're talking about George Farmer. He's very effeminate. He's very effeminate, dude. Strange. Let's see. Candace is naughty conservative. Epstein and Bannon. No reply. Says Pizzagate. It was about Nancy Pelosi and Goat Hill Pizza. The Podesta emails were not released till. Let's see. We gave small but growing. There we go. That's this channel. That is this channel. Let's see. Jay seems to just actively try and put a wrench in Trump's plan. Let's see. Might have to create a new party for him called Contrary. Say I felt politically homeless, but I definitely relate to the sentiment. Yeah, there you go. That was a great way to put what we were talking about earlier. Yep. Yes, blackpilling is such a good point. It's a miserable way to live. If there is no hope for this country, then yeah, you're right. What's the point? Why get out of bed in the morning? It's just going to be bad. It's going to be bad for bad's sake. He can't live life like that. Higher purpose and, optimism, and you see something positive. I remember doing the show when Trump got elected. I was so worried about it. I was worried about voter fraud and all the other things that the left has used. And, when it happened, I was like, and immediately he started putting in these, although I'm not a huge fan of executive orders, he started putting in the executive orders. I was like, yes, finally, some positive things we can talk about. It's not all doom and gloom. And the doom and gloom started when people said, okay, you didn't do what I wanted you to do as quick as I wanted you to do it. And even though 3 million additional files have been released from the Epstein files, people are still not happy. They're not going to be happy. And when a mistake was made, because it's like this rush, get everything out. And they're going through the declassification process. They're going through the redaction process because you don't want certain people to be shown in the files that don't need to be shown in the files, i.e. victims and other that. They make a mistake and they pounce on it as if, they're incompetent people. This is what Thomas Massie did. Why did you not redact this and you did redact that? I don't know. We redacted 4 million documents now. Little leeway might be in order. Let's see. Oh, by the way, no, it's not a real holiday, but happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Yes, absolutely. Happy Valentine's Day. I'm about to fire up the grill after this live stream. So how do these guys with 8 kids quit? Black pillars are such a psyop. How do these guys with 8 kids quit day jobs to podcast? It's interesting. That's an interesting thought. 2 goats and a dog. By the way, I like that handle. I really like that handle. 2 goats and a dog. I think I mentioned this last time you were on. Like, where does that come from? Republicans complete control to push Trump's agenda through. Yep. There you go, Jay. Understand the idea, but he doesn't seem to get anything accomplished with it. What really does is benefit the democracy. I'm reading. I'm going the wrong way in the chat now. My understanding, if it was because of federal, let's see, might have to create a new party for him called Contrary. Let me find your. They have way more influences than Israel does. Yes. Might have to create a new party for him called Contrary. My understanding, if it was because of federal overreach, Jay seems to. Okay, yeah, I think I see what you guys are saying. Let's see. I hope I'm not a grifter. I just don't like TPUSA. It's from a subjective experience I had with my donations to them. I love Charlie and Erica. Yeah, I don't think they'll ever change their name. So, is it TPUSA? It's like, is it just the way they do business? Like, what? Give me your take, because that's an interesting comment. So it's from a subjective experience I had with my donations to them. I love Charlie and Erica, but I'd like TPUSA to change its name. I'd be interested in hearing more about that. I really would. Sick of them throwing down. Oh, you took $7K. Well, who's paying them? My goats, Nacho, and okay. Here we go. So this I've gotten this comment because of my stance. I have to put this up. The you took 7K. I get those people have gotten these people in the chat before, and I bring them up and I say, hey, we've got one. We finally got one, right? Because there's a lot of people who that's what they default to. They don't want to have an actual conversation. They just say, oh, you don't say that you hate the nation of Israel, so you're obviously getting $7,000. No, it's obviously not the case. I'm not getting paid. I have a day job. In fact, I have a couple of jobs, a business, and then I have other contract work, things that I'm doing. So no, I pay my own way in this world, but that's their default, because one time something got said, that therefore anybody who says anything positive or doesn't say anything negative about Israel is getting $7,000. It's so stinking annoying. So annoying. And it's intellectually lazy when they do that. But so you do have my goats, Nacho and Donk. Those are great. Donk it was the name of the guy from Crocodile Dundee. Donk was the guy down in the big tall dude down in Australia. I've got a donk. Ben threw it in the comments. I had to do it. He said 7K. I had to do it. Oh, I forgive you, Ben. I forgive you, Ben. It's okay. Nobody actually came in and did it, so that's the next best thing. Oh, gosh. Okay, guys. Well, golly, I've gone past the hour. I truly appreciate everybody coming in and hanging out for the day. I hope you all do have a wonderful, wonderful Valentine's Day, that you spend time with somebody special. If not, go buy yourself some chocolate and eat it on the sofa. That's the next best thing. But hit all those free buttons below. It really helps out the channel. We are growing. We are small but mighty. Excuse me. And we're going to keep up the great work here, but that only happens with you guys. So God bless. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And let me make sure I didn't hit any other big comments that came in at the very last minute. I like to get as many in there as I possibly can. Hi, Ben. Hi, Ben. I can't claim credit. They came with we got so sick of the blaming. They're left. Yeah. That's how I do business. It feels okay. This was Eric's comment. I'm sorry, I have to get to it. It's how it feels to corporate from its original grassroots appeal. I fell in love. Okay, I see what you're saying. So this is the comment you made earlier about TPUSA, about why you had issues with it. You said it's how they do business. I feel it feels too corporate from its original grassroots appeal. I fell in love with. Okay, I mean, I get that. At some point it is going to be hard to still keep a small town, grassroots feel when you become a 9-figure organization. So I get that criticism. I don't think it's I think their motives and their goals and aspirations and what they're trying to do in the conservative movement, I still think that is good. I think they still have I feel like they're still on the right path. It's rocky right now, obviously, since Charlie Kirk has been gone, but yeah, I get what you're saying. It is eventually going to feel corporate or hard to keep that small town grassroots feel. So thanks so much for validating real people with good values still here and accounted for. There you go. That's awesome. Stay blessed, everyone. That's a good one. All right, I'm going to end on that one. Guys, have a great day. Have a great evening. Y'all are awesome. God bless you. God bless America.